Hello, I'm Charlie Adams, Charles J. Adams III, and I'm wearing somewhat what I wear in October, Halloween season. This kind of black look, kind of morbid, and my Halloween hat. But it is the festive holiday season, so I'm going to put on my festive red scarf and this silly thing, which is as close as I can get to like an Ebenezer Scrooge look. Pretty classy, huh? Can you see that nicely? Pretty. Anyway, 99 cents at the costume shop or something like that. Anyway, I'm here to talk about something I've put together called Between Boo and Bah Humbug. It is the era between October, Halloween, and Christmas. And it is between fall, autumn, and winter. Things start to change quite a bit. And I'm going to talk about today and read about how it changed back in the 19th century, forever. One of my favorite books is The Man Who Made Christmas, about Charles Dickens. There's a movie about it too, about how Charles Dickens created Christmas. One of my second favorite books is Charles Dickens' Christmas Ghost Stories. Yes, Christmas Ghost Stories. We all know A Christmas Carol, that is Ebenezer Scrooge and the gang. But I'm going to read now today, and I will be reading, all about how Ebenezer Scrooge was not the first, and certainly not the last, ghost of Christmas. The tradition of holiday ghost stories goes much, much farther back, farther perhaps than Christmas itself. When the night grows long and the year is growing to a close, it's only natural that people feel an instinct to gather together. And as the year ends, it also makes sense to think about people and places no longer with us. Thus the Christmas ghost story, 'tis the season to be morbid. From the first Christmas in Bethlehem, the notions of magic and mystery have been very much a part of the season. The Magi at the manger were magicians. M-A-G-I, Magi, magicians. The myrrh they brought, remember, frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Myrrh brought in praise was a burial spice. Here's a newborn child. Hi, would you like some burial spice? I don't know. That's what they did, though. The origins of Christmas ghost stories have little to do with the kind of Christmas, commercial-wise, that we've celebrated since the Victorian age. They're about darker, more fundamental things: winter, death, rebirth, and the rapt connection between a teller and his or her audience. But they're packaged in the cozy confines and trappings of the holiday season. Christmas is celebrated in Europe, and the U.S. was originally connected to the pagan, and I put that in quotes, winter solstice celebration and the festival known as Yule. The darkest day of the year was seen by many as a time the dead would have particularly good access to the living. British writer Jerome K. Jerome. Your last name is Jerome. You name your newborn child Jerome? No, I don't, but they did. Anyway, in an introduction to his anthology of Christmas ghost stories in 1891, he said whenever 5 or 6 English-speaking people meet around a fire at Christmas Eve, they would tell ghost stories. This was 1891 when he wrote, "The close, muggy atmosphere of Christmas draws up ghosts like the dampness of summer rain brings out the frogs and the snails. Nothing satisfies us on Christmas Eve but to hear each other tell authentic anecdotes about specters. It is a genial, festive season, and we love to muse upon graves and dead bodies and murders and blood." 1891. Sounds like one of those shows on one of those cable channels now, doesn't it? The practice of gathering around the fire on Christmas Eve to tell ghost stories had been a part of Christmas for the Victorian English as much as watching sentimental and schmaltzy, or for those so inclined, bloody and slasher Christmas movies on TV and theaters are for us today. Christmas ghost story telling traditions were also continued by M.R. James, the provost of King's College, a pretty prestigious place in Cambridge. He'd invite a select few students and friends to his room each year on Christmas Eve and read one of the ghost stories he and others had written. He wrote many. Other authors mention apparitions in their stories, like Old Christmas, from the sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon Gentleman, by a fellow you may have heard of, Washington Irving. The same book that gave us The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. In Henry James's famous Gothic novella, The Turn of the Screw, the story involves a group of men sitting around a fire telling ghost stories on Christmas Eve, setting off tales of pure terror. Kipling, Thackeray, Hawthorne, Scott, and Joyce were among those who wrote ghost stories set in and designed to be read at Christmas. In William Shakespeare's A Winter's Tale, Maximilius proclaimed a sad tale's best for winter. I have one of sprites and goblins. And in Christopher Marlowe's The Jew of Malta, Barabbas said, I remember those old women's words who in my whelp would tell me winter's tales and speak of spirits and ghosts by night. That was written in 1590. And although I would not and could not dare to enter one of my literary idols' masterpieces into the Christmas ghost story milieu, it is curious that it was a mere midnight dreary in the bleak December when a particular raven came rapping on the chamber door of Edgar Allan Poe's imagination. So by the time Charles Dickens came along with his carol in 1863, the tradition of Christmas was fading. In fact, for most people it was still a work day, just another day. The Industrial Revolution meant fewer days off for everyone, and Christmas was considered so unimportant that nobody really complained about it. Yeah, it's Christmas, birth of Christ. Gotta go to work. A more rapid decline in the holiday came courtesy of that great man Oliver Cromwell, the Lord and Protector of England in the 17th century, and a Puritan. He was on a mission to cleanse the nation of its most decadent excesses. And the top of the list was Christmas. Period. End of it. Wanted it out. Prior to then, Christmas was celebrated much the way a traditional Christmas would be, and still is. Lots of food and drink, decorations and singing, but Cromwell said, nope, no more of that stuff. But with A Christmas Carol, the story, occurring around the same time as the invention of the commercial Christmas card, and 19th century businesses looking to create a new commercial holiday, Christmas grew a resurgence in Britain, and with it came the ghost stories that British Christmas are known for. Surely Dickens could be considered the father of Christmas ghost stories. His Ghost of Christmases, his Scrooge, his Tiny Tim, they're every bit as vivid to some holiday imaginations as Rudolph and Santa and Frosty. And it's worth noting that the complete title of Dickens's classic is A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas. That's the real title of that novella. Dickens, who knew the value of the written, read, and spoken word, was as much an actor as a writer. His dramatic readings of A Christmas Carol earned him respect and a decent living as he performed it to thousands on the holiday lecture circuit with lines such as this. His color changed, though when without a pause it came in through the heavy door and passed into the room before his eyes. Upon it coming in, the dying flame leaped up as though it cried, I know him, and fell again. Interesting to note that Dickens often read from his own writing to crowds of sometimes thousands of people. Many times, though, he just strayed from what he wrote and ad-libbed. And many times he was criticized for it. People in the audience were known to say, that's not what I read in your book. And Dickens said, well, that's a story I remember. And he just continued to make stuff up as he went along, staying within the confines of the framework of his stories. Anyway, it's not generally known that Charles Dickens is also likely the progenitor of the concept of White Christmas. In his Pickwick Papers, Dingley Dell is snowbound at Christmas, lovely little village. That image was picked up quickly by artists and writers who forever immortalized the now familiar snow-covered Christmas scene in pictures and in words, although the chances of snow at Christmas in England, very unlikely, and as fanciful as many of Dickens's literary images as well. 10 of Dickens's many Christmas ghost stories remain as classics. A Christmas Carol is by far the most familiar, but anyone in a good mood for a good ghost story, a good railroad story, simply a good read, will want to seek out what's my personal favorite, Dickens' Christmas ghost story, The Signal Man. It is a railroad story and a ghost story. Can it get any better than that? I don't think so. Little known today, a Dickens story, The Chimes, was far more popular in its day than A Christmas Carol, believe it or not. And yes, a ghost plays a key role in its plot as well. So people, they knew A Christmas Carol, but they wanted to read, they wanted to hear The Chimes, another Christmas ghost story, far more popular in its day. And during his stint as editor of a literary magazine, Charles Dickens peppered the publication's December pages with ghost stories written by himself and its contemporaries, and he was known to even make up names of authors. Here's a story by, make up a name. He really wrote it himself. For still another part of all of this, the ghost story tradition has made it into the songs we sing at Christmas, believe it or not. Think about it. The Andy Williams Christmas Carol. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Okay, sing along with me. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. Huh? Scary ghost stories? It's the most wonderful time of the year. Scary ghost stories? I don't know. For still another relatively contemporary example of a ghost story at Christmas, come with me, please, to lovely little Bedford Falls. As I introduce you to George Bailey, a troubled bank officer. Clarence Oddbody, a mysterious man from, well, who knows where, and a movie called It's a Wonderful Life. A ghost story. It's a wonderful life. It's a ghost story. It's considered to be one of the greatest movies in the history of movies. And the American Film Institute called it the most inspirational film of all time. It's a Christmas ghost story. It's not a horror movie. As such, Clarence is not a ghost, per se. He's a charming 293-year-old self-described angel second class. Gotta love that. But the characters, the plot, and the sets and settings have all the trappings of a good old-fashioned ghost story. If you can, please recall the Granville House, the eerie vacant house down at 320 Sycamore Street. Folks in Bedford Falls walk a little faster as they pass the big old Victorian ghost house. So yes, I'll call It's a Wonderful Life a wonderful ghost story with its promises of redemption and salvation. Some say Frank Capra's movie, which was based on Philip Van Doren Stern's short story, in turn loosely based on Dickens' classic novella. Really, that could have been the inspiration for all of it. In the former, George Bailey pleads with the angel second class, "Help me, Clarence, get me back, get me back. I don't care what happens to me, get me back to my wife and my kids. Help me, Clarence, please, please, I want to live again. I want to live again. Please, God, let me live again." Well, the trembling Ebenezer Scrooge famously promised the ghost of Christmas is yet to come. "I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach." You get the similarities there? It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Carol. So go to present-day imaginations. Halloween might be more appropriate holiday for ghosts. Christmas makes sense. As Dickens wrote, the ghosts of Christmas are really the past, the present, and the future, swirling around us in the dead of the year. They're a reminder that we're all haunted, all the time, by good ghosts and bad, and that they all have something to tell us. In fact, his 1854 gem, Seven Poor Travelers, Charles Dickens asserted, Christmas Eve is the witching time for storytelling. 1854. It is said that the public's fascination with ghosts at Christmas was predicated on the loss of lamented art of storytelling. In the days before electricity, the spoken word was precious. Ghost stories by a crackling fire and cringing family were certain to help pass the long, cold winter's nights. As did the four spirits that manifested so dreadfully and dramatically and swirled around Scrooge and Dickens' classic Carol, other more tangible terrors have trudged through traditions for centuries. Although not a ghost, a Yule ghoul, known in our own Pennsylvania German folklore as the dreaded furry devil, called the Belschnickel. You may have heard of him. You may have seen him. You may have been vexed by him. You may have been spanked by him. I don't know. Its name approximates the German word pelz, which means fur, like a pelt, and the name Nicholas, like in, saint. But this old Saint Nick is not particularly jolly. Oh no, not at all. Clad in ragged animal skins, or pelts, and armed with a sturdy tree branch, the Belschnickel approaches children in the run-up to Christmas and demands they tell him about good deeds they have done during the previous year. If they can, they receive a treat. If they cannot, they receive the wrath of Belschnickel's whipping. The vile visitor then assures each child he meets that good deeds done or not, they can assure they'll have a good Christmas if they change their evil ways. Not all nasty, yet lessons to teach. And then there's Krampus. Krampus. Oh. Another legendary visitor from the folklore of Bavaria, the Alpine regions of Austria and Switzerland, Czechia, Czech Republic, Poland, even northern Italy, Krampus, or Krampus, the wicked, horned, hairy creature, also accosts young folks with the "Have you behaved this year?" challenge. Now, if they assure him that they have been good little boys and girls, they get a treat, a fruit, some nuts, perhaps candy. If they shy away from him, though, Krampus spanks them with a birch rod and warns them to be good as Christmas approaches, and of course in the next year. There are many other horrid holiday critters in folklore around the world. The Yule Cat, a shape-shifting beast that brings disgusting gifts to young folks in Iceland who have not behaved themselves. And in Iceland, the cat is joined by 13 Yule lads with names like Spoon Licker, Pot Scraper, and Sausage Swiper. Can you imagine telling them to be good and the sausage swiper will get you? I don't know. This is though in Iceland, they do things differently up there. Children in Iceland also put out shoes on Christmas Eve that the lads fill with presents, if the kids were good. So the lads are sort of like Santa's elves, sort of, kind of, almost. Anyway. Other creatures to be feared include, a tough time with this, Joralupkuki, or something like that, the dreaded Christmas goat of Finland. Finland, I don't pronounce anything, whatever, Joralupkuki. And then there's the Ukrainian holiday festive spiders. Festive spiders? I don't know. They have Lucy then, Lussi, maybe it's Lussi, who leads demons and evil spirits on rampages in Norway, unless local folk repel it. Black Pete, the harbinger of evil in the holiday season in Holland. The Christmas, this is one of my favorites, the Christmas zombie horse in Wales. Okay, I'm trying to digest that, the zombie horse. And many other ghastly, ghostly, menacing beings, real and imagined. And of course, who could forget the Grinch? Oh yes, there is one, I won't discuss the Grinch, I don't like the Grinch, never did. Doesn't frighten me, well, a little bit. But anyway, there is one more Christmas character that seems to come out of the hornbook of the paranormal and the supernatural. To find this elusive individual, one must venture into one of the most uninhabitable and remote regions of the planet. There, it is said, dwells a mysterious man whose existence defies all rationality. Oh yes, consider. He has no known neighbors. Nobody lives anywhere around him as far as we know. No ancestors. No descendants. He does have a mate, a woman, with no known first name. No known maiden name. We don't know. He oversees an unnumbered workforce of gnome-like imps or elves who toil in a workshop for undisclosed wages or salaries. Kind of weird, huh? It's estimated that there's one night of work every year, going through time zone to time zone, country to country, house to house, chimney to chimney. He would consume 374 billion calories, 151,000 tons of fat, and 33,000 tons of sugar in the cookies left for him down by the Christmas trees by good little boys and girls. Thus he is considered obese, I guess so. But by some mysterious morphing, he's still able to fit into chimneys and slide down fireplace hearths to the hearth, carrying a massive sack filled with various and sundry items, mostly toys. And in keeping with the literary theme of this discussion, it should be known that this first person who informed us to this character's preference of residential entry via chimney was none other than the writer who gave us the legend of Sleepy Hollow. In 1812, it was actually Washington Irving wrote of the holiday visitor rattling down the chimney to bring his yearly presents to children. Now, this same character soars through time zones across the globe in a vehicle powered by 9 antlered animals. One with a nose that glows a bright red. Come on, a bright red. Did I say bright red? I did. I'm hungry. Bright red. Where the money comes from to pay for this manufacturing of products produced by those elves or imps or whatever they are, and the salaries of those workers, however much they might get, if anything, all remain shrouded in a mystery. And this character's vocabulary is quite limited as far as we know. All he knows, officially, ever on the record, was a much more hearty and happy ho, ho, ho. Well, you may know who I'm talking about, but some people call him Father Christmas. Some call him Kris Kringle, Papa Noel, Weihnachtsmann, Babo Natal, Sinterklaas, and many other people in many other lands know him by many other names. You are most likely to call him, everybody, 1, 2, 3, Santa Claus, yeah. All that stuff I told you about him? Think about it. Weird, huh? But still beloved. I shall offer one more reference, and I do so not with any disrespect whatsoever. Please, don't call History Center and complain. Don't call me, don't email, no, nothing like that. But I do feel that while speaking of ghosts in this season, we could and should speak of the only reason Christmas exists at all ever. Indeed, the very reason for the season, as it said. It's a time of year that Christians celebrate the birth of a baby who was destined to enter the Holy Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Think about that. In closing, and in this time between Boo and Bah Humbug, allow me to quote now from Andrew Lang, a prolific Scottish poet, novelist, and collector of ghost stories and fairy tales and folklore. Published in 1893, it is The Ballad of Christmas Ghosts. Between the moonlight and fire, in winter twilights long ago, what ghosts we raised for your desire, to make your merry blood run slow. How old, how grave, how wise we grow, no Christmas ghost can make us chill, save those that troop in mournful row, the ghosts we all can raise at will. The beasts can talk and barn and bray on Christmas Eve, old legends know. As year by year the years retire, and we men fall silent, then I throw such sights hath memory to show, such voices from the silence thrill, such shapes return with Christmas snow, the ghosts we all can raise at will. O children in the village choir, your carols on the midnight throw, O bright across the mist and the mire, ye ruddy hearts of Christmas glow. Beat back the dread, beat down the woe. Let's cheerily descend the hill. By welcome all to come or go, the ghosts we all can raise at will. Friend Sursum Corda, soon or slow, we part like guests who've joined their fill. Forget them not, nor mourn them so, the ghosts we all can raise at will. Merry Christmas, and sleep tight tonight.